last class, we talked about the importance of listening and speaking to be able to introduce ourselves in a conversation. But how important is listening in language? Consider that children spend most of their time listening to their mother or their father and their siblings before they even try to speak the language. Children get the language before they speak, and they spend most of their time listening carefully to everything that is being said around them, and all of a sudden, before you know it, the child is speaking and having a conversation in a certain language. This is mostly the native language, but children learn more than one language. Children are the best learners in the entire world. So we can take an example from children in the way they are able to learn languages, especially when they learn language from other children. So if listening is so important, we should try to approach someone that we admire or that we can use as a role model in order to learn the new language. But sometimes we run into certain difficulties. Sometimes the other person that we're interested in learning from doesn't talk very much. Usually we admire them for the work that they do in the community, their profession, their philosophy, or the way of life. For example, we can be interested in knowing about an artist, a painter, a dancer, but most of these people don't speak. Especially scientists. Scientists and mathematicians, they tend to be involved in their work and they do amazing work. And some of the best professionals don't make the best teachers. So, if we need to learn from people around us and they don't talk very much, what can we do in order to encourage them to speak? Sometimes we can come up with questions that can prompt them into speaking, but other times it is difficult for us to find these questions. A good guide is asking who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. If you can get answers to who, what, when, where, why, and how questions, we can learn more from other people than if we just try to ad-lib the question and answer session out. So, let's say someone wants to know more about me. Someone wants to know about me as an individual. We're in a setting, and it's a casual setting. We're having some coffee, and I'm involved in my work, and someone approaches me that generally wants to know more about me, has probably seen my work at the university, and is interested in learning about who I am. So they would ask, hello, my name is so-and-so. Pleased to meet you. That is a way to introduce yourself to someone. And they, in kind, will usually answer with their name. Oh, hello, my name is so-and-so. My name is Osvaldo. I just told the person who I am. So, a way to encourage a person to continue speaking about themselves is saying, you're Osvaldo, and who exactly is Osvaldo? Tell me more about you. And then I would answer, well, I'm married, and I have children, and I'm a happy father, and I'm a very, very encouraging and motivating father, and which is one of the best things in my life. I'm an animal lover. I love dogs, I love cats, and I love birds, and I have fish. That begins to tell the person a little bit more about me. Keep in mind that I didn't mention the job that I do. Especially in America, Americans tend to keep their job distance from the person that they are at home. In other countries, for example in Russia and in Puerto Rico, people tend to answer about who you are according to the work that they do. In Russia, they'll say, so who is your father? Well, my father is a university professor. That doesn't quite go well in America. In America, who is your father? Well, my father is a loving father. He's an amazing dad. My father plays sports, he climbs mountains, he paints, he sings, he dances. That is a more appropriate question to who you are. It goes a little bit more in depth. Now, a question on what would be, what do you do? Now, what do you do is a question that approaches what the person actually does for a living. What do you do? Someone would ask me, so what is it that you do? Well, I'm a teacher. I love teaching. And then the person would ask another who, what, when, where, why, how question by asking me, well, when did you decide to become a teacher? And then I would go a little bit more in depth. I would start thinking, it's been a long time since I thought about it. The first time I got into teaching, I was a young man. I was 18 years old and I was in college. I was approached by a company that needed a silkscreen printer to teach a class on silkscreen printing. And lo and behold, I was available and I accepted the job, and I had my first job teaching silkscreen printing and began a love affair with teaching. That was when I began to teach, and when I began an interest in teaching. And so the person could ask, well, Osvaldo, where are you from? Where do you live now? Where are you going in 5 years? See how deep the questions are going? So a where question. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico, but I moved to New York when I was 5 years old. And so I spent most of my lifetime living in New York. Then as a teenager, almost an adult, my family moved back to Puerto Rico, and I spent high school and college in Puerto Rico. The person would ask me, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, I see myself graduating with a PhD at the university. I'm still a student. I began a life as a student, put off studying for a while, and now, at my age, I've decided to go back to college and pursue a PhD. So the person would ask me, well, why is it that you teach? Why teaching? And that immediately puts a smile on my face. And I would say, well, why? Because I learn so much more from students than what I teach. I find that in the classroom, when I'm teaching, I'm actually learning. I'm not teaching as much as I'm learning, because my teaching style is a little bit different than what most people are used to. I follow andragogy. Andragogy, which is adult learning, the system of adult learning. I don't follow pedagogy. Pedagogy is based on the way children learn and young adults learn. But I follow andragogy. Andragogy is adult learning. And when I go into the classroom, I'm not as much of a teacher than I am a facilitator. A facilitator. What a facilitator does, it brings people to take the reins and learn how to take ownership of their own learning. And their own learning much longer after the class session has finished. The person is supposed to have learned in my classroom to take the reins, to take the responsibility of their own lifelong learning. And so, how did you get to teaching in the first place? Well, that's where I go in deeper into my first experiences when I was a young man and I went into teaching for the first time. So if you follow the who, what, when, where, why, and how question and answer session, a person that's usually quiet will begin talking about their favorite person, which is themselves. So let's go on to our guided lesson, and we're going to practice talking about ourselves. I'm going to prompt you to talk about yourself with who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. Let's begin.